Hello, everybody. Welcome to this edition of Mr. J's Geek Corner, place where we talk about anything and everything that is geek, whether it be TV, comics, movies, or video games. And this week, I'm joined by my lovely, beautiful wife, Ellen.
Yo.
She's joining me this week because we're doing a show that she came up with. I think it was about a month ago.
Something like that, I think.
He came up with about a month ago, and we were just sitting around talking, and suddenly she brought up the question: do relationships help a storyline, whether it be in comics or anything, or do they kind of bog it or weigh it down? I mean, what was you?
Well, you know how I am, and I really don't care anything about relationship type stuff in stories anyway. I don't care if it's a movie or a book, comics, graphic novel, whatever. It's just not anything that interests me. It's just accompanied by an eye roll for me most of the time. Like, can we get on with the story here?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it really depends on what it is. I mean, if like take Man of Steel for instance, there was a little bit of a romantic through line through all that, like Lois becoming more attracted to Clark, Superman, through the whole thing, but it didn't weigh it down. It wasn't like centered around her giving googly eyes to Superman through the whole daggone movie.
Well, since you brought that particular movie up, I didn't even understand why they even brought that in there to begin with, because it was like coming out of left field. Like, okay, when did this happen? Like, when did she even become interested in him at all, other than she saw him like a few times and then they're kissing? Okay, Where did that come from? There's no build up there. I mean, if there had been a build up a little bit, I could have understood it.
Well, I can almost see it in there. And that, I mean, he starts out more as her obsession to figure out who this guy is, who he is, what he's doing here, is he here to help us and everything. And it's like and whenever she finally meets him, it becomes almost becomes like a romantic cling type thing.
I didn't.
And like, I mean, the romantic angle does kind of come out of nowhere. It's one thing, is she
very out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, okay, when did she start becoming more romantically interested in him when she first saw him, or like when she saved, and she just did that whole looking into somebody's eyes and they know kind of thing, like when he saved her in the escape pod, or when was it? Saving her from the black hole, which will be the second time he saved her in that movie. I mean,
well, if she had like a conversation with somebody saying, I'm getting interested in him for some reason and I don't really know why, like why do I feel this way about him or something, I kind of could have seen that, but it's just like out of nowhere. Like, what is that?
I mean, other than that, the fact even though it was in the movie, it didn't really weigh it down. I mean, it wasn't so like spinning your wheels in it like in the. I know I'm probably getting a lot of angry flack for this, but the original Christopher Reeve movies. I mean, all it was Lois being doe-eyed at Superman, just being like, falling all over and everything. I mean,
well,
seriously,
my thing with Man of Steel was it was so barely there that what was the point of them even putting that in there? Like, just dropping it in there, like, oh, we almost forgot this or something. Well,
I'm guessing it's supposed to build to a sequel. We already know what the sequel's going to be.
Well, why didn't they just leave it for the sequel? Why did they even have to go there?
Yeah.
Why you gotta go there?
Yeah. But, like I said, it didn't mar it. The fact, even though it was in there, it didn't mar it down like it did like the original Superman movies. All the Superman movies where it was Lois Lane trying to get with Superman.
Yeah.
That's all it was. Trying to figure out who he was just so she could get with him. Which she did. You've seen the movie. She did. She did get with him. And if you saw Superman Returns, it had consequences. Superboy. but But like I said, it's just it's one thing. It's one thing to have it in there as like a little side piece kind of thing, but don't make that almost. I mean, that's kind of what marred down Attack of the Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clone. I mean, you center that whole thing around. I mean, instead of being like a straightforward Star Wars movie, you try to center a love story around it. I mean, that kind of made a lot of folks mad. Of course, the prequels kind of made a lot of folks mad too. Yeah. Like I said,
I'm not even going in episode 7 here.
Not
even going there.
Yeah, that's another show. That's another show. I'll get into that in another show. But it just mars down the story too much. It makes, I believe some folks call him emo Ken. I mean, that just gets too much into. I mean, it kind of mars the story down, makes him too emo. I mean, yeah, I know it's supposed to almost lead him to the dark side, but at the same time, yeah.
Well,
anyway.
Well, my issue when somebody brings in like a love interest or something, and I'm reading a comic or watching a movie or something like that, is usually like, oh no, how much of this story is going to be this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't, I mean, you can like half this book if you just get rid of that.
Yeah.
Or somebody that could be a level-headed person. Of course, that happens quite often. The person is completely level-headed and they get in a relationship and and can't think straight and have all types of problems. But, I mean, that's life. But if it kind of blends well with the story, I don't have an issue with it. But if it's like you're reading something you never read and know nothing about, and you're like, why have you got to do this?
And another thing I probably mentioned on other shows is what happened in issue 1 of the New 52 Catwoman book. Her and Batman suddenly, I mean, they've already had a romantic attraction anyway, but he never really let himself go that far. But
Getting
in
physical.
this, and getting physical, other than kissing.
Yeah.
But New 52, new universe, new rules. Suddenly, Batman wants to take a walk on the dark side.
New hormones.
Yeah, yeah. Suddenly, out of nowhere, Batman wants to, for no reason, wants to take a walk on the dark side. Wants to go further forward other than just a little simple kiss on the lips.
Yeah.
He suddenly wants to cross. Dare say, basically go outside his rules. And you kind of figure that out by issue 2. What happened?
Yeah.
But to me, that kind of weighs it down. I like it. Also, like, okay, you got to put a token scene in here between the two.
Yeah.
There's no reason for that. I mean, there's no reason to all of a sudden just go that route and to never have them go that route again. Actually, what I've seen in some issues. Of course, I ain't read that many issues. You know, I am about the New 52, but it's just there was no reason for that. To me, it's just kind of like, okay, what?
Well, you know how I am with romance.
Yeah.
If that's the way you want to term it in anything, anyway. What was that movie that they showed like an edited version on TV and there was like no romance stuff in it?
Top Gun.
Yeah.
Top Gun.
They cut all that out. I was like, that was my version of that movie because I ain't care nothing about it.
Yeah, y'all seen Top Gun? There's kind of a love scene in there between Tom Cruise and Kelly McGillis, and that's pretty much what attracted any of the women to the movie. And your average, kind of get to attract, like give
That's
give
how you get them to watch it.
And how you get your girlfriend to watch that movie. A lot of action in it. But on a local, there's a network called Ion. A few years ago, they showed it on television. I think as far as they got in the whole romantic angle, you saw them kiss, and they went to commercial. They went straight to commercial, and then when they come back from commercial, back to planes.
Yeah.
Back to airplane. They had no kissing, no romantic relation. It won't no No, every bit of the romantic relationship between Tom Cruise and Kelly McGillis' character were cut out. There wasn't no romantic stuff in there except for maybe one kiss. That was it. They cut everything else out. Every other make-out fist's out.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that one time. In other words, it was my version.
Yeah,
I remember seeing that.
I was shocked by that, but the
I
fact
was
that
glad.
I ain't complaining. I ain't complaining they did that. It's just the fact that I was shocked that they actually did it.
Went to that link.
Yeah, they actually went to the link. They be like, you turned a guy, they turned a matter of fact, I'm gonna say about anything that would have made the movie attractive to women, they cut it out. Anything. The volleyball scene with the guys guys out there playing volleyball with their shirts off, they cut that out too, thank the Lord. But but like I said, they cut anything like that out of that movie, and they just made it just a movie about fighter pilots, what it was supposed to be, really. But and like I said, that's just another instance of you free up a movie when you take romantic elements that really should or should not be there out of a movie. You make it enjoyable for other people.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it a lot more without the romantic elements in it, that particular movie.
Mm-hmm.
And yet there's some cases it's just who the characters are.
Yeah.
Like in the comics, like with Superman and Lois and ones like that. I mean and to a certain extent Batman and Catwoman, you understand it, but
it's not like it's, well, at least with Batman Catwoman, it's not like it's steering everything into the romance angle or something.
Yeah.
It's like it can exist alongside it, but it's not like it curves everything one way.
It's a given, but it's not necessary.
Yeah.
And to me, it ain't necessary to have romance in everything because it does kind of tend to weigh down a story. But if you want to have it in there, it can help a story.
Yeah.
It helps and hurts some stories. Depends on what it is.
Well, you can have romance in something like, like if a man loses his family or something, and they do like a few flashbacks and stuff to what happened before and the reason that he turned into how he ended up, like
Mr. Freeze.
Yeah.
Or we're watching last night, Last Man on Earth with Vincent Price.
Vincent Price connection.
Last night, he basically lost his whole family to this plague that was going all over the world and basically turned everybody, killed them, and then basically turned them into zombies.
Yeah.
Zombie vampires. Stop me if you've heard this before. But but basically he loses his entire family to this plague.
Yeah. But that was needed. That was a long flashback though.
The long flashback when it basically showed you all that happened to lead to him in that house boarded up in a house by himself with zombie vampires trying to knock down his door and get him every night.
Yeah.
Show how he got to that point.
Even though it ended with a major downer.
Yeah.
Huge downer.
Huge downer ended. But we ain't gonna spoil it for you if you ain't seen it.
It's good though.
Yeah, it is good, but that's another that's an occasion where it's needed.
Yeah.
And what wasn't I mentioned before that? Before Last Man on Earth?
I don't remember.
I can't remember now either. But I said that's one of many occasions where a romance is needed because it does motivate the story to an extent. And like I said, but there's just some that just it seems like they just added on just to have romantic elements in it,
or that they just like in certain movies. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but like. The way they advertise the movie sometimes, it makes it sound like, oh, it's all action, this, that, and the other or something. And then you watch it, and it's like 15 minutes of action, and then like an hour and a half of, can we get back to the action part of this movie?
Mm-hmm.
Like false advertisement type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, that was a ripoff.
Another case where kind of a romantic angle is necessary. The new Godzilla that came out recently.
Yeah.
It was one particular soldier trying to get back into the battle zone to find his family, find his wife and son, just to make sure they're okay and they ain't been squashed.
Yeah.
And I mean, like I said, romantic angles, relationships do help a story along, kind of motivate the story. But I said, but there's some that just you don't need to drop the romantic bomb in there
For everything.
Yeah.
Well, when it's something like a disaster movie type thing, like whether it's Godzilla and like a monster movie type thing, or if it's just like something like there's an apocalypse happening or something, there's going to be romance in there because you're having to see what is this huge thing that's affecting so many people everywhere. Like, how does that affect like just certain people, and like what are the little things that get thrown to the wind just because of this huge thing happening?
Yeah.
Like how many things it affects, even though some people might not even think of it that way.
Yeah. I mean, how many earthquake movies that they had on television, where the earthquake hits in like the first 15 minutes, and the rest of it is just the people trying to get back to each other.
Yeah.
How many times? And I'm gonna say it, despite the fact that it motivates the story along, that also weighs it. That's another occasion of where you've got both.
Yeah.
I mean, it weighs the story down, and that you want to see an earthquake destroy something, and the rest of it ain't nothing but the folks trying to get back together with each other.
But the thing about it is, if you got a movie and it's about an earthquake or earthquakes, whatever, there's not really that much you can go into detail about unless it's like a documentary. If you don't have like people in it that you're showing how they're affected. Because I mean, you're gonna have like 15 or 20 minutes of an earthquake and here roll credits. I mean, that's all you got. There's nothing else.
Yeah, roll credits. Like I said, it's relationships are a helpful thing and a hurtful thing at the same time. To whether it be a movie or a TV show or a comic book, or even at times a video game. Of course, you don't get that very many times in a video game. No, I ain't seen that many times in a video game.
Unless it's like a story type thing or something.
Yeah.
Which you're not really into playing those, and I'm not really a video game person, so.
Exactly.
Terrible.
Yeah. Fighting games, sports games, all the way. Not very many story oriented ones.
Yeah.
But
anything with any story, and you're like skip.
Yeah. Exactly. But it's just like I said, it's helpful and hurtful at the same time. Like I said, in a lot of cases, like I said, it weighs the story down and it boosts the story up too. But
if they do it right, you can tolerate it.
Yeah.
And it helps in some cases, but that's just my default setting personally. Is not again.
Well, like I said, I'll go back to the well again. In case of Superman, it's necessary for his character.
Yeah.
I mean, it's what keeps him grounded and keeps him human.
Yeah.
To have a relationship with like Lois Lane.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a character development type thing.
Yeah. I mean, it keeps him from being totally alien.
Yeah.
I mean, they've showed books where, in his instance, where he loses Lois Lane and he completely disconnects from the human race. I mean, he either turns into ruler of the world or turns into a hermit.
Yeah.
And yet, at the same time, it also where his romance has drove him to the point where he gives up his powers, he gives up the mantle of Superman to live a normal, quiet, workaday life with the love of his life. So,
it's all in how it's executed.
Yeah.
In the story.
And it's all how you do it.
Yeah.
All how you do it. Just don't beat people in the head with it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good when you got it in there to kind of pepper it a little bit, but don't oversaturate it.
Yeah, just to make the story longer.
Yeah, don't
and more complicated.
Exactly. You got anything else to say on the subject?
I'm good.
But well, what do y'all think? Do y'all think relationships are really helpful to a story, or or can be hurtful to a story. And let us know. Drop a comment in the comment box, and I'd love to hear what y'all think. And that's all for this week's edition of Mr. J's Geek Corner. And I thank my lovely wife for joining me for this one. I always love it when she does a show with me. Y'all have a comment in general about the show, drop me a comment box. Like, subscribe, tell all your friends. You have any ideas about things you want to hear me talk about on the show, drop me a line. I would love to hear from you. I'm always looking for fresh new ideas for things, subjects to talk about on the show. Drop me a comment, drop me an idea in the comment box. I would love to hear from y'all. Love to hear your ideas. And we'll see y'all next time.